Okay, so today we're going to show you how to use Trackstar so that you can create your own Trackstar for your students to go through different types of lessons that you or other teachers may create. So the first thing you're going to do is go to www.trackstar.forteachers, the number 4.org. Okay, and to see my track, what you're going to do is in View Track, I've copied my number, it's 449792. And then you're going to hit Go. Now when you get to the next page, you're going to see Introduction to Standards in Education, which is also what you are doing for your set of standards. Okay? And you can see that I've made a track description so that my students know what exactly their goal is to learn about. And I've asked you to view this in text because it's much easier to follow along if you do it that way. Okay, so let's click here on View on Text, and then you will see my track. Now I included 9 different sites in my track. You do not need to include that many. However, you will want to have a very brief summary, like you see for each of the tracks I have listed here, and you will also want to have a guiding question or two. At this point, do not worry about explaining Bloom's taxonomy within your description. So here I can see that the interstate teacher assessment and support a set of 10 principles and teaching standards that outline the skills and competencies expected of teachers. Put yourself in the shoes of a first-year teacher as you read about the in-task principles. Okay, and then here are my questions. How can these principles help you develop as a teacher? And what principle do you consider a strength for you at this point? Which standard will be the most challenging for you, and how will you work on that? Again, so this is kind of to guide the way you are thinking as you go through this part of the track. And I'm just going to click on in-task principles. Now again, this was before you had to change to the standards, even though this does cover the new standards. Okay, so I'm going through and I'm reading through these and thinking about all those questions that I originally had. And I might want to jot down some notes referring to those questions just so I can keep in mind for a later point. Okay? Now, when I go back, when I'm done with this, I will go back to my track and go to the next part. Does that make sense? Okay, so here I'm going to do Partnership for 21st Century Skills. And these will take me throughout where I need to go. Okay? Whoops. Okay. So now we're going to go back to where we were originally. Okay? And I'm going to show you how to make a new track. So I'm going to click Make New Track once I'm in my account. And then I'm going to put a description. Maybe it's going to be Indiana State Standards. Okay? And I'm going to type a brief description with what I want guiding questions to be. So guiding questions. Okay? And down here on the next thing, I need to think about any keywords that it might be, if that makes sense. Okay? Now what I also need to do, whoops, sorry about that, is to consider what subject area is this going to be. So if it's going to be in, for example, science or art, then I want to make sure that I do it that way. If it's not, then I want to check something else. So this would be teaching standards. Okay? And this is going to be extended learning or resources. And I want you to think about where that's going to play. Okay? We're just going to say research right now. Resource list, I'm sorry. And this is going to be for our class, other. Okay? And then my grade level is going to be college and adult. And if I want to, I can get rid of this at some point. However, I don't necessarily want to accidentally delete something. So I'm not going to worry about that. Okay? And then I can make a password so that only my students with a password can access my track. Okay, and then I'm going to hit next. And I'm going to decide, okay, what title do I want to give the site that I'm using, and put in the URL, that's the www, and then a description here of my track, okay? And you might, after you play around with it, decide to move one up or one down or all the way around. You also might decide to make it shorter or longer. And you might want them to view it in text form like I did mine, or in frame form. And you can play around with that as well. So what I'm looking for you to do for each standard is to explain a little bit about the purpose of it. How was it created? Why was it created? Who created it? And then I want to consider, who does this benefit? What purpose does it serve? What's the agenda of those who created it? Were teachers involved? And also, for me as a teacher, how can I use these standards? Not only pragmatically, as in physically using them in my classroom and understanding them, but how can I use them to help me as a teacher? Remember, standards work for me. I don't work for standards. I work for my students. Okay, and let me know if you have any questions. You can post them on our Facebook site. Hope this helps. Thanks a lot.